Thank you, Chairman Maggart, members of the board. Good afternoon. I'm here today with Craig Murphy, our division chief, and Jacqueline Kitchen, the supervising planner, who have been lead on this project. This item is a general plan amendment, a zone change, and a conditional use permit for implementation of the Alta East Wind Project by Terragen Power, LLC, for 318 megawatts of electricity. This project was continued from your December 4th, 2012 general plan window to provide additional time for staff to respond to comments and prepare a recommendation. Proposed project is a large-scale commercial wind project located both on private land, which is under your board's jurisdiction, and public lands owned by the federal government and managed by the Bureau of Land Management. This is in eastern Kern. If Ms. Kitchen could point to the Alta East project on this map. Project site is 2,592 acres, but the private land for consideration by your board today is 568 acres. The remainder would be considered later for a decision by the Bureau of Land Management. The site is located 3 miles west of the intersection of State Highway 58 and State Highway 14. Mojave is 3 miles southwest. Tehachapi is 11 miles west. Rosamond is 10 miles south of the site. The Cameron Ridge segment of the Pacific Crest Trail is 1 mile northwest of the project area, and all the project land, private land, is south of Highway 58. And just to, for continuity on our maps, the light-colored on the maps, which Ms. Kitchen is going to point out, is the private land, and the darker colors is the Bureau of Land Management land. Surrounding development consists of renewable energy projects, vacant desert land, sparsely scattered residential structures, off-highway vehicle use, and livestock grazing. There are already operating wind projects south and southwest, along with the 350-megawatt Catalina solar project, which is under construction. Your board has also recently approved other wind projects adjacent to this project, Morgan Hills, Catalina Wind, and the Avalon Wind Project. Existing development includes the Los Angeles Aqueduct, the Southern California power lines, the Union Pacific Railroad sidings, and the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power transmission lines. There are no residences in the project boundary, and the closest turbine on BLM land to a residence outside the boundary is 700 feet. Project has been designed and environmental review conducted in joint consultation with the BLM, but due to the federal nexus issues with federal land, the entire project is subject to the mitigation measures listed in the attached mitigation measure monitoring program. Project proponent is required to obtain an incidental take permit for impacts to biological species through a biological opinion from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Terms and conditions of that biological opinion would supersede any biological mitigation measures where appropriate. So today your board is taking action on amendments to the circulation element of the Kern County General Plan to remove these future reserved right-of-ways, changing in a zone classification to add the wind energy combining district for 418 acres, changes for the floodplain district for consistency with Zone A, and approval of a conditional use permit to allow a temporary concrete batch plant. Site access is at the southern portion of the project site that's south of Highway 58 is proposed from the west by a Cameron Ridge Road. If Ms. Kitchen, this is an existing road that is owned by an affiliate of the project proponent. There would be minor roadway improvements. In addition, they will be building a bridge across the Los Angeles Aqueduct, and there are 3 different access points that would be available for this project. The joint environmental document was prepared with the Bureau of Land Management. It complies with both CEQA and NEPA, which is the National the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA. Beginning in July of 2011, a notice of preparation was circulated for CEQA, and a notice of intent was published in the Federal Register. The draft EIR-EIS was circulated, and instead of the 45 days, it was circulated for 90 days, and a response to comments was prepared. Your board has received all these documents, and the final EIR-EIS comprises 6 volumes and has 67 mitigation measures to reduce significant impacts. The mitigation measure monitoring program is Exhibit C of your staff report and has been provided to you. A detailed discussion of the EIR-EIS and all these impacts has been provided in the staff report. Both project and cumulative impacts remain significant after all feasible and reasonable mitigation for the following areas: aesthetics, air quality due to construction traffic, biological resources due to the unavoidable impacts to avian species, including the California condor, noise due to construction. As required by CEQA and NEPA, the EIR-EIS discussed 7 alternatives and determined that Alternative C, the reduced project north, meaning that we would not build any of the project north of 58, would be the environmentally superior. Volume 6 contains the response to comments. There were 17 comments, and we did provide detailed responses. More than 38 individual comment letters were received in support of this project. They're supportive of the project as an investment in the community to generate jobs and property tax revenue for school districts, local special districts, and the county. Commenters note that the land has been vacant for many years, and this represents the highest and best use of the private land. 4 letters were received opposing the project based on concerns for biological impacts, impacts on Mojave, and general opposition to federal support for wind energy. Staff has carefully reviewed these concerns and imposed mitigation measures where appropriate to reduce biological impacts. Staff notes this project is adjacent to existing wind projects, and wind projects in this area were constructed north of 58 in the 1980s. This project is an infill approach for utilizing transmission while being protective of existing residents. Mr. Arnold Mednick submitted extensive comments in opposition, citing impacts to his family's 20 acres of property. We've provided comprehensive responses to the issues raised on pages 18 to 23 of the staff report, and staff would note that his property is 7.5 miles southwest of the project site, although his comment letter and his consultants indicate that his project is a mile away from the project, which is inaccurate. We conclude that the project will not adversely impact Mr. Mednick's property, and there's no takings potential as alleged in his comment letter. At 11:30 this morning, we received a letter from the Center on Biological Diversity. We have provided that to your board along with our responses. We appreciate the Center's support for wind projects and their constructive comments. They did not oppose the project. However, they did indicate that they believe that your board should continue this item and wait for the Bureau of Land Management to take action, noting that the majority of the project is on BLM land. We disagree with this because in order to build this project, all of the infrastructure is on private land and requires your board's concurrence. The transmission line, the access, the operations and maintenance building, the temporary batch plants, and the substations are all located on private land, and only wind turbines are on the public land. Therefore, we believe that your board, it's necessary for your board to take action first rather than waiting for the Bureau of Land Management. The Center also took opposition to a project-by-project take permit for wind projects in the Tehachapi Mojave wind area. We would note that while they would like us to participate in a comprehensive proposal such as the Desert Renewable Energy Conservation Plan, staff notes that the Endangered Species Act provides that those plans are voluntary, and the Endangered Species Act does not require the approach that the Center is requesting your board consider. The project, if approved, has to fully comply with the requirement for any permits for potential take of golden eagles and any potential harm for California condors. They also note that there were many studies that they believe should be fully provided to them before they can make specific comments. The final EIR contains performance standards, and we've listed the specific mitigation measures for your review along with those studies. We do not believe that there is any merit to their request, and these mitigation measures fully comply with the requirements of CEQA and NEPA. And finally, the Center notes that the U.S. Department of Fish and Wildlife did not provide written comments and has not issued a biological opinion on this project. We provided the notice of preparation and the draft EIR-EIS to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It is their choice whether they wish to comment in writing. They have been consulting extensively with the Bureau of Land Management, and that is not binding on your board's ability to determine the adequacy of the final EIR and approve or deny the project. We did receive extensive comments from the State Department of Fish and Wildlife and other environmental experts, such as Defenders of Wildlife and the National Audubon Society, and we've incorporated appropriate mitigation measures to address these avian impact issues in the project. Therefore, we are not recommending that your board continue this item today. You've been provided written findings and a brief explanation of the rationale for those findings in the staff report. Section 15091, findings of fact, and a statement of overriding consideration. The statement of overriding consideration details the environmental, the social and economic benefits of the project, including the statewide benefits of the project, outweigh the unavoidable and significant environmental impacts. The project will provide 262 construction jobs, 15 permanent jobs, and $4.3 million a year, the first year, in property taxes, with a total of $76 million of taxes over the entire 30-year life of the project. Staff does note that we have verified with the assessor that taxes are assessed on BLM land for these types of projects. So that includes both the private and the public lands. And one-time sales tax revenue will also derive from the project construction. A part of this project, as is a part of all renewable energy projects, is a memorandum of agreement that your board has asked the applicant to sign, and it is before your board for approval today. There is a portion of the California State Government Code that provides that if a city or a county or a public utility buys a wind project, that they can exempt themselves from our jurisdiction as a utility for implementing our mitigation measures, complying with our zoning requirements, and of course paying us the taxes that would normally accrue from this project. This memorandum of agreement is a binding agreement that the applicant and any successors, including any county, city, or utility company that they sold this project to, is fully bound by our zoning, fully bound by the jurisdiction of your board, and will comply with all of those. And in the instance where they don't pay property taxes at the same level that they pay now, they are obligated to pay $5,000 a turbine every year annually directly to the county to compensate for that loss for the life of the project. We believe that this memorandum of agreement sufficiently protects our valuable assets in Kern County from being owned by outside interests, and the extensive impacts that your board is asked to override. You are protective of your citizens by making sure that these cities, counties, and utilities are going to abide by your board's authority. The project was considered at a Planning Commission hearing on December 13, 2012. 3 members of the public spoke in opposition on the project, expressing concerns on property values, biological noise, and aesthetic impacts. 3 members of the public spoke in support. Chris Babcock recused himself from voting, and the Commission voted 4 to 0 to recommend approval of the project. After consideration of all these issues and a comprehensive review, staff is recommending approval of the project. Location is adjacent to existing wind projects. It has few residences in proximity, and we have evolved with new mitigation measures designed for observation and potential selective curtailment of problem turbines if a California condor travels throughout the area. This new mitigation uses state-of-the-art VHF transmitters backed up by human observation to detect condors in the area from up to 16 to 6 miles away. Turbines are linked by telemetry to a central control room and can be stopped in less than half a minute, with blades stopping within a minute. While all possible protections have been put in place to protect the California condors from potential harm, you are being asked to make a statement of overriding consideration for the possible harm to the condor from the operation of the project over the next 30 years. As the area already has existing wind turbines, transmission lines, and other existing hazards to the condor, we do not think this infill project is actually increasing the risk. In fact, no condors have been seen flying over this area, but the mitigation and cost to the development is based on the possibility they may move into the area in the future. Kern County has permitted to date 7,562 megawatts of wind and solar, with 2/3 in operation and under construction. This is 7 times the next closest jurisdiction, which is Imperial County, with 1,000 megawatts. This has provided staff with extensive experience and expertise with wind projects, and we conclude that issues have been adequately addressed. Staff recommends approval of the project as sufficiently mitigated, appropriately sited, and consistent with the policy of your board to support economic growth and job generation. Therefore, the Planning Commission recommends that you certify the environmental impact report, adopt the Section 15091 findings and Section 15093 statement of overriding considerations, adopt the mitigation measure monitoring program, adopt resolutions and enact ordinances approving the amendment of the circulation element of the Kern County General Plan as requested, approve the zone changes as requested, approve the conditional use permit as requested, subject to the listed conditions of approval, approve the memorandum of understanding agreement, and authorize the chairman to sign. That concludes staff presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Oviatt. I appreciate the staff report. We have a number of people standing in the back of the room, and our procedures require that you have a seat. So there are seats here in the seating area where you can sit down, but we need you either to come in and have a seat, or you can also hear from out in the lobby. Is the lobby available to be able to have the sound piped out there?
No, just in the media room.
We have enough seats, so if you could accommodate us by coming and have a seat, we'd appreciate that. Okay, before we take public comment, I want to get a sense of how many people in the room are here to speak, not just to listen, but how many people are here to speak